Hey everyone, welcome to today's Explainer. I am absolutely thrilled to have you here because today we are unpacking one of the most fascinating biological mechanics of our entire existence, the human reproductive system and the absolute magic of puberty. We're going to take a really close look at how our bodies seamlessly transition from childhood into adulthood, all driven by these tiny microscopic chemical messengers. It is an incredible journey and I cannot wait to share it with you.
All right, let's just dive right into this mystery. Have you ever actually stopped to think about how a 10-year-old child's body just knows it's time to become an adult? I mean, take a photo of a 10-year-old, compare it to them just a few years later, and the physical transformation is staggering. Shoulders broaden, voices drop, bodies completely reshape. But what actually rings that biological alarm clock? Well, we are going to answer exactly that today.
Okay, here is our roadmap for today. 1. What is reproduction? 2. Asexual versus sexual reproduction. 3. Humans, viviparous and sexual. 4. The magic of puberty. 5. The hormone command center. And finally, 6. Secondary sexual characteristics.
So, Section 1, what is reproduction? The continuation of a generation. To really get what our bodies go through, we have to start at the absolute basics. Reproduction is literally just the biological process where organisms produce offspring similar to themselves so they can continue their generation. Think about it, from your grandparents, to your parents, to you, and eventually down to your children. The reproductive system is basically just the dedicated group of bodily organs working together seamlessly to make that generational continuity happen. It's literally how a species survives.
All right, Section 2. Asexual versus sexual reproduction. 2 paths to creating life.
There is a really sharp contrast between these two paths. With asexual reproduction, it's pretty straightforward. You only have one single parent, there's absolutely no gamete formation and no fertilization. The organism basically just copies itself. But sexual reproduction, that's a collaborative effort. You need 2 parents of opposite sexes, you have to form gametes, specifically sperm and eggs, and you actually need fertilization, which is when those gametes fuse together to create a zygote. Section 3, humans, viviparous and sexual, how we keep going. Okay, before we get into the heavy biological terms, I have to share this incredibly funny anecdote from the source material. A biology teacher was asking the class if humans are born as infants or if they hatch from eggs. And this poor, bewildered student named Rakesh actually chimed in, basically implying he hatched from an egg. The teacher had to gently remind him that, unless he's some kind of literal biological anomaly fit for a museum, human beings definitely do not hatch from eggs. So, putting Rakesh's egg theory aside for a second, let's look at the actual science. Humans are unisexual. That just means we have separate male and female sexes. Males produce sperm, and females produce eggs. And here is a crucial term. Humans are viviparous. That means we give birth to live infants. We're not oviparous, meaning we don't lay eggs. We absolutely need both the male sperm and the female egg to combine to create that very first single cell of life, the zygote, which eventually develops into a live infant.
Section 4. The magic of puberty. The biological alarm clock.
The thing is, humans aren't just born immediately ready to reproduce. We have to go through puberty. This is the physical process and biological phase where a child's reproductive organs fully develop. When babies are born, physically, males and females look pretty similar, right? But then this biological alarm clock goes off and dramatic changes happen. And interestingly, this clock operates on a slightly different schedule depending on your sex. For girls, puberty typically kicks off between ages 10 to 13. For boys, it usually starts a bit later, around 12 to 14.
Section 5. The hormone command center. Sending the chemical texts.
So how does this clock actually work? Let's walk through this insane biochemical cascade together. It all starts deep inside the brain. Step 1. As a child hits that 10 to 14 age range, a gland called the hypothalamus wakes up and releases a hormone called GnRH. You can think of this like a chemical text message. Step 2. That GnRH message travels straight to the pituitary gland, essentially texting it, hey, this body is growing up. Step 3. The pituitary gland reads that text and immediately springs into action by releasing 2 brand new hormones of its own, LH and FSH. I really want to pause and emphasize the importance of this first signal. GnRH stands for gonadotropin-releasing hormone. It is absolutely crucial. It's literally the master switch that unlocks the whole next phase of human development. Without that initial text message from the hypothalamus waking up the pituitary gland, the rest of puberty just wouldn't happen.
Section 6, Secondary Sexual Characteristics, the physical transformation.
Okay, so the brain just released LH and FSH. What do they actually do? Well, let's look at the male pathways first. Notice how insanely targeted the body is here. LH stands for luteinizing hormone, and its specific target is the Leydig cells. Its job? It triggers those cells to release testosterone. Meanwhile, FSH, or follicle-stimulating hormone, targets the Sertoli cells to nourish developing sperm. So the brain sends the signal and the specific cells react perfectly. It's a masterpiece of biology.
And it's that flood of testosterone that drives what we call male secondary sexual characteristics. This is the physical transformation you can actually see. We're talking beard and mustache growth, increased muscle mass, and broader shoulders. Internally, the voice box grows, which gives guys a much deeper voice and that prominent Adam's apple. Plus, you get pubic and armpit hair and the internal onset of sperm production. The whole shebang is commanded by testosterone.
Now, let's flip over to the female pathway. In females, those exact same pituitary hormones, FSH and LH, have a completely different target. They head straight for the ovaries. Once there, they trigger the ovaries to develop follicles, begin releasing eggs, and crucially, produce estrogen. Just like testosterone runs the show for males, estrogen is the primary chemical driver for female physical maturation. So what exactly does estrogen do? Basically, it preps the female body for potential future reproduction. The voice becomes thinner and higher, breast development occurs, the pelvis and hips actually physically widen to prepare for potential childbirth later in life. Pubic hair appears, and crucially, you see the onset of egg production and the start of the menstrual cycle. These are all the secondary sexual characteristics driven entirely by estrogen.
Okay, let's just step back from the specifics for a second and look at the macro perspective. We are talking about trillions of cells and highly calibrated chemical signals working together completely seamlessly. From a tiny gland in your brain waking up, to sending a chemical text message, to releasing secondary hormones, to entirely transforming a physical body, it's just this breathtaking, perfectly coordinated effort to prepare a human being to eventually sustain life. It is wild.
So we've covered exactly how the body prepares. The biological alarm clock is rung. The chemical signals have fired. The male and female gametes are finally ready. But that leaves us with one incredibly fascinating question. Now that everything is prepped, what exactly happens when they finally meet? Well, that epic journey of fertilization and fetal development is a story for another explainer. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today, and I'll catch you next time.